I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Okay, so first up on the agenda is just to inform everybody that Matt is retiring from the committee or resigning from the committee. His work obligations were getting to be a bit too much for him, so I don't know if we need to think about getting another committee member or not. Guess y'all can decide what, I mean, we've still got 5.
There's not a requirement, that you have more. So if you're not having quorum issues, if somebody would like to join the committee and can add to it, it's great, but
Okay.
nothing needs to be done.
Well, I don't know anybody that has asked to join. Is anybody else aware of anyone that wants to join? So
Definitely somebody's interested.
yeah, if somebody's
Please,
interested, we consider for sure, so.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so then where's Rocky? Is he still on vacation?
He is, I wasn't sure if he was gonna be here or not, and the manager wasn't sure if he was gonna call in. He's had some challenges, I guess, with his village equipment. When he has been in Alaska, it plays nice with our IT company. When he's been in Canada, not at all. So, if he's not online, I don't expect that we'll see him.
Okay, well then we'll just have an update from you then.
So I apologize. I know I was not at the last workforce housing committee meeting. I've been running everywhere with summer camps and everything else. So, we had a good trip, and then I got a summer cold too. I don't recommend coming home from a vacation sick. It's not the way to end a vacation. From the emails and things I'm seeing online, obviously, folks have seen the dirt work is started on site. It looks like the hurdle that Rocky is currently working on the quickest is procurement for the 6 units.
Right,
Making sure we're walking that through the process without some type of prepayment or something that is not allowed either through state or federal procurement. I see no reason why those are not going to keep moving. So as of now, we are still headed towards this plan of getting the 6 in this season with the others to follow. I was not at the council meeting on Tuesday, but for those of you that saw, there were RFPs sent out for the concrete work and for the electric work. My impression is we still intend to do all of the site work this season.
Right.
We may not, we won't be able to get to the asphalt work, hence why we're not putting homes in the back portion of the lot. But the intention is that everything else would be done. Kit Carson through the electric, we're bidding out what will go from Kit Carson's termination into the actual foundations themselves. That part was bid, and then the concrete work that was bid out will be not the curb for the curb and gutters, but the actual foundations going under the homes themselves.
Are we doing slabs?
So, not slabs, but what would be called a runner.
Okay.
So this is not gonna be a perimeter, but if you think, you have beams running down the length of the units themselves, these will be cross beams, I believe, for them to set on. And then where the skirting will go, they will trench around that perimeter. So when the unit is set and the skirting is attached, some depth of the skirting then will be backfilled and buried. All in an effort to keep critters from getting under there. So not a full perimeter foundation. There are some questions because we are putting them on a foundation. We're not technically required to. We think though that it's the best answer from a leveling perspective, that things would tend to shift and we don't want that happening. So we may end up tripping over having these converted from mobile homes to real property when you purchase a mobile home and you fix it to a foundation. So we're not sure on what that's gonna look like or implications from a real estate perspective. We're not worried about it though, because as a village entity, we don't actually pay real estate property taxes back to the county. So not gonna incur a cost there, we don't think.
you
And I
also
guess,
sent out the invitation to bid for the 6 units.
yes.
Yeah. That was.
Yeah, and that was all done, had to be done within the 15 days, so I had talked to the manager who presented the items last week in my absence. And we think we know. On the electric side, there's gonna be 2 or 3 bidders on that, likely on the concrete side, there's really primarily the one concrete company up here. If we get another bidder, great. And then as far as the bid for the housing stocks themselves, that was just to follow a procurement step. We're not considering a different vendor or different house, it's just following the rules of procurement. It was why that was sent out. So my apologies for missing the last meeting where you guys got to talk so much about governance. I did talk to Elizabeth a little bit and kind of got the gist of what happened at that meeting, so that's really what I have. I was joking, we didn't do a groundbreaking, so maybe we should plan on a ribbon cutting if we do, you know, end up with these 6 units in here sooner rather than later, so some type of hey, hooray, you know, we've crossed a milestone date would be good.
Okay.
Any other questions of me?
No, we forgot to do roll call, so we probably should go back and do that. Okay, so anyway, so let's go back and do roll call real quick. So we've got Maya.
Maya.
Joshua
Harris, present.
Elizabeth, present.
Meg Quinn present.
Present. Okay. Well, we have 100% participation, so we're good on it.
Hey.
Yeah, okay. All right, so, moving on to the next item. Do you have any questions for Councilman Crane before we move on about any of the work that's going on out at the spot or anything?
No, see what they're doing.
Okay. Okay, so, are you watching?
Watching.
Yeah. All right, so the next thing we were on the agenda is to vote on the recommended changes to the governance document from legal. So we reviewed those changes at the last meeting, and basically they were only wording changes, no intent was changed, and and then the one thing they wanted was to split off the actual governance document from the very last page, which was recommendations for council. So, which we all thought that was a good idea, but now we need to vote on that to see if everybody agrees. So we need a motion to accept the recommended changes to the governance document from legal.
I move that we accept the recommended changes to our government document.
Okay, anyone want a second?
Second that.
Second, okay. And then all in favor?
Alright,
Maya?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Right, motion passed. Okay. The next item on the agenda was to discuss and vote on potential additions to the governance document. The reason why this is on the agenda is because at our work session, we had Owen from Resort Partners of Angel Fire and Mike from Four Seasons come and talk to us about, you know, things that we might want to include in the RFP for rental management, not for actual property management, but for rental management. And a lot of the points that they brought up sounded like something that we should maybe cover in one of our documents. And so I've kind of put together like a little bit of a summary, just my thoughts, I guess, and I can share those with y'all. And then, of course, I'd like everybody's feedback on those. I kind of split them between what I think should go in the governance document, what should go in a lease agreement, what should be versus some of the things that we talked about should be in the lease agreement, and some of the things that we talked about should actually be on the application. So, but since we're
I
focusing.
have something before.
Sure,
you
yes,
leave
go
up.
ahead.
How do we get this changed from draft to final, and who do we have to give it to?
I think Rocky will take care of that for us.
Okay.
So. Do you agree? Brett?
Madam Chairman, no, I'll actually take care of that for you. Once
Okay.
y'all get all the language you want, I'll submit it to legal counsel for their review. If legal counsel has additional changes, it'll have to come back to you.
Okay.
But once we get all that out of the way and you guys have the final draft approved by you and legal, then we'll go to council for final approval.
Okay. So what I can do is I can open it up in Word and kind of, you can show the changes and then you can just show it as changed. So I'll do it as changed. And then whatever we decide here, I will add to the governance document and I'll kind of put it in a different color or highlight it or something, so they'll know just to review that. Okay. All right, so some of the things, I'll just kind of quickly go by, some of the things that we talked about last time that we thought needed to be addressed was, these are just gonna be summary and then I'll explain where I think it should go. Do we want a credit report? And if so, do we need to set a credit rating? What if somebody needs a cosigner? Would their income be included in the income limits? We needed to address how collections of rent, inspections, evictions, kind of thing happen, and then there is a Uniform Owner Resident Relations Act that was brought up. That's a 52-page document. I looked at that again today. And that discusses many things, and so we do not need to reinvent that. We just need to.
Everybody needs to receive it.
Yeah. We talked about terminations, lottery, a few other things. So here's kind of what I thought in the governance. I thought that we need to mention in our governance document that workforce housing is subject to the wherever it's called, the UORA. Yeah. Which is the, subject to the law, which is the law that includes, but it governs the obligations of, and rights of the renters and the owners. So we just need to put maybe like one blurb there to just say our governance, refers back to this. And then, the only other thing I thought that we might want to add to governance was we talked about rather than the village asking people to, for the quarterly making sure that they're still eligible to live in the workforce
right.
housing, that we, maybe just send a reminder or something like that to submit their eligibility requirements, what someone was talking about. I think it was Maya said they just, have people, here's my paycheck stub, although, or I don't know who said that, but and rather than us asking, hey, you need to do this, just a reminder that you need to send it in to prove that you're still eligible to live in the housing.
Yeah, and I think tangentially, I wasn't here last time, but tangentially, to doing research on the lottery, speaking with a couple people like in Avon and Vail. That's what they do. They send reminders, and Avon, I think she said they actually do an income requalification once a year. But the duty is on the residents. That's what they've written in, and if you don't submit, I forget if it's I can get that info, 90 days.
Okay.
You turned your own lease.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I think if we just say that the village, yes,
Madam Chair, just so you know, based on the grant agreement that we signed, we have to do an income qualification once a year.
Once a year.
once a year.
Okay.
Well, our governance currently says every 3 months because we were
We
like,
can do it more,
okay,
but we have to do it once a year.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
that's a minimum. Yeah.
okay. So wherever that little section talks about that, we'll just add this in here that the village will, drive the reminders to do that, but the occupants should be responsible for that. And that will also go in the lease agreement. So other than that, I think everything else really falls under lease agreement or application. So lease agreement, I was thinking definitely pet policy would go there. Including the deposits provisions, related to the owner's right of entry, and I sent Rocky an example of the Inmar lease agreement, and it has it all in there. It has, we have the right to do this, and then, there is some information about breach of contract in there as well, so I think that's more lease agreement, not governance. And, the application, to me, should have, that's where you get the permission to get the credit report. Although we did discuss that maybe some of our applicants may be here, they may be foreign coming in like as a J1 or something. And so we don't know if they would even have I don't know how that works in other countries. So I don't know what we would do about that. But we may need to ask somebody about, maybe Maya knows, but y'all said y'all don't run credit reports. Right? So we
No, we
may,
don't do credit reports on anybody.
so I don't know about that, but
Yeah, and I just, like, I know we have a couple of long-term units we manage, we do background checks. And we do credit reports, but it's a very minimal amount that we're just looking for some kind of, we're looking more at income history, stability of income. That kind of thing. I think that's something we could talk about more is we want to be realistic while keeping qualifications. Yeah, do we have a,
Madam Chairman, I would like to recommend one consideration is a lot of times the people that might be needing these units are people new to the valley.
right?
And so if you're looking at for stable income, I don't know how you quantify that because, the resort hires somebody that, is new and has a job and, maybe they didn't have a job before. It's my recommendation that we focus more on the stability of future income and a credit rating as opposed to past income, because I think if we focus on that, it's just the workforces is geared towards.
Mhm.
A lot of them may not have a good track record of historical income, even though they have great credit or stuff, because they're, maybe they're people that are just getting place to place, and we do get a lot of those here in the valley as employees, and I don't want them not to be able to rent these if, especially if it's like, a good job for them and this, we want them to stay in the community.
Okay, well, I think if you run credit history, I think you can do it two different ways. You can just get a credit rating, but you can also get credit history. And the credit history may tell you a little bit more than the credit rating.
right?
You know, like if
history is gonna tell you.
if they've got-
Fair amount of things.
If they have consistency in not paying rent or something like that, that might be something we want to know.
So,
So, okay, so we're not talking about what really the application, but I just was kind of summarizing where I thought things went. So that's something to consider. I made a note, and then when we get ready to, I think what we'll have Rocky do is I sent him the application, I sent him, I think, Maya sent him some things. So we just need to ask Rocky to put together another draft and let's kind of, then that will finalize that and
Who pays for
the pays for what.
the background check or the credit rating?
Usually the applicant will pay for that. I know the one that we use is $50.
For the background?
It does the background check and the credit report, and it has
So
all,
that's part of the application.
like,
fee,
all their
maybe.
credit for like the last 7 years and, reports that might come back from landlords or anything like that.
Okay, well, anyway, so back to what needs to be added to the governance. I really think that does anybody have any other, based on our discussions last time, does anybody have anything else that they thought was really geared more towards the governance? Than towards a lease agreement or application?
So I think lease agreement.
Yeah.
I saw that, and I think that, all the things that were brought up, most of the things except that one item, I think they're really practicalities that need to be done either, on the application or on the lease agreement. Or like you discussed.
So. I don't know that we can really vote on this until we actually see the wording of the changes to the governance. So maybe what we do is I go in and I make the changes. And then our next meeting, we can vote on the actual wording to submit again to legal. And since it's just gonna be a couple sentences, maybe it won't, maybe they'll
They can just
we'll rush it.
pass
Maybe
it.
they'll do it like real quick, like
Well,
30
right now,
minutes.
we only have one thing legal's working on. When you
Okay.
guys submitted that the first time, it had like 12 things.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Well, but realistically, we've gotta have this through legal and council in the next 60 days.
yeah.
Well,
So
so we're
we-
shooting for the end of October for units to be ready.
Mhm.
So maybe more like 75 to 90 days.
Yeah,
Still, it's got a clock on it.
Yeah, probably, yeah, it does have a problem.
So we can do that, and then at our next meeting, we can vote on that and then, and get it submitted, so that, I mean, that should be within a couple, 3 weeks or so. So. Okay. So let's move on then, okay, review, and I had these votes in case we wanted to vote, review and vote on the feedback and recommendations from property management guests. I mean, basically, their recommendations were that in order to do the level of monitoring that we expect to be done, meaning the people who are in the unit were identified in the application, and that there's not like, you know, 2 people who said they were income, and then there's 6 people living there who were all workers, you know, that kind of thing, or somebody's moved in all their friends or whatever. Level of monitoring for that, plus, you know, are they following the rules and things like that? They really recommend a property manager on site, and then that property manager would be responsible for kind of keeping an eye on things, and also be like the person that you would contact if, say like you had a problem with your door, a door wouldn't shut. And that's something that sustainability partners would do, but maybe the property manager would be the first point of contact, and then they would take care of, you know, reaching out to sustainability. Now, whether that property manager is from sustainability or whether it's from the village would be, you know, that's to be determined, I suppose.
I mean, as far as, I'm sorry, so as far as who would pay for that property?
Yes. Would it be a village employee, or could it just be somebody that sustainability pays for because they're responsible for maintaining the units?
Well, so they're responsible for maintaining the units, but not the administration or collection of dues. I mean, of
Right.
rent or any of that.
Well, the property
I
manager,
guess is probably gonna be the employee of the village.
and that is also their recommendation, is that you have somebody be that, the property manager really come more from, because of the levels of monitoring we felt like needed to be done, the physical monitoring. Unless sustainability is planning on doing that,
They are not.
so. So that was one,
If we could, I mean, and I knew that recommendation because you and I had talked about it, but. What do you think? Who's that gonna be?
Well, we'd have to hire somebody,
Right.
and, you know, the thing is, I think we could, definitely make like. Most people, one of my best friends, growing up. His mother was a manager of a large apartment complex in Irving,
Mhm.
Texas, where I grew up. And they got their apartment for free
mhm,
because she was the manager, so
mhm.
that was part of her compensation. And so if we could do something like that, I think it would have a minimal impact. Or a much reduced impact on our budget.
Mhm. Okay,
Is there a feeling though is there enough work there for a full-time employee, or is that person gonna have dual responsibilities?
So, you know, I think. I mean, we don't know because we've never done this.
Right.
To be frank. But I think for 30 units, once we get all 30 units in, it
Mhm.
will be enough. And we're already looking at phase 2.
Yeah.
And so this person may have responsibilities within phase 2 because we're hoping to have the property secured for phase 2 this winter.
No, it was always gonna grow into something that made sense, but now we're in the. Soft start, if you will, with 6 units there, and we're gonna need that person. On or around when units are arriving. So how do we?
Well, let me ask, is the concept kind of gonna be that this person's gonna do the administrative work and any, like, I'm gonna go tighten your doorknob or, you know, your lights going out, or is that kind of sustainability partners gonna send somebody up here?
So
Is there,
I think this is all about assigning who's responsible for what.
right, right,
right,
And without a professional property manager in there, if the village is gonna take on everything that it's gonna take on, you look at sustainability partners as the bank.
Right.
Essentially, so they have a financial interest in making sure these units are maintained, and they're actually collecting some monies to pay for ongoing maintenance. But they're really the checkbook now, because they own the units, they might have a say in. let's say that one needed to be re-roofed. Well, they might wanna make sure that a licensed contractor does that and not, you know,
Sure.
as they still own them, so. There are some things that, you know, the village is already planning to take on, right, the snow removal and all of that. We do have a growing maintenance department, but do they have capacity for, you know?
We would make capacity for this.
Right, so some of it, it's gonna have to grow into, so I wouldn't put sustainability partners' name next to anything that needs to happen physically in Angel Fire.
Right.
Might they be making phone calls and emails and cutting checks and doing that? Yes,
Okay.
but as far as the actual on the ground work. And I also don't anticipate that, you know, if the person who is the property manager on site is probably also not the person who's going to be, hey, I need a light bulb changed, or I need a, you know, that is then her probably or him submitting a ticket to the maintenance department to
Okay,
here, get this work done.
yeah,
And you know, what I really liked about. Having someone like Owen do those is they have people on their staff that do that kind of work. And you know, even if we didn't pay for that and sustainability paid for that portion of. Physical maintenance, and then we pay, you know, the village pays for the rental management. I would have. Thought that would be good, but I can tell you based on their discussion, neither one of them seemed terribly interested in it.
Oh, they didn't,
No,
that's unfortunate.
yeah,
But, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
So keep in mind that sustainability partners are gonna own 24 of the units.
right,
They're not gonna do maintenance on the ground, on the roads.
right,
If it's a problem with power or gas. Unless it's inside the unit,
right.
okay,
then it's gonna be their responsibilities. Everything else will be the villages. And on 6 units. We're gonna, unless we can work out some after the fact deal with sustainability partners. We're gonna have full responsibility on these first 6.
So we're basically anticipating if we were to send an RFP out for property management services, that neither of the two. That came and talked are terribly interested in that contract.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I mean, I think Owen would do it as, maybe do it just as a community service, but not that it's, I don't know that it's a real. Big interest for him, I mean,
So
and Mike was flat out, we don't do this kind of stuff, we only do the. You know, the condo association type things.
So, I mean, we can still send it out for RFP, but it sounds more and more likely that we're gonna need a physical employee.
Yeah.
However,
Between now and the end of the year.
Somebody.
Yeah,
That level of monitoring.
I think talking about this, I think, you know, we'll start with this and that'll get that person up and running. So if you get somebody and get them in September, October and get them up and running. And then we go to we get the rest of phase 1 done and we get to phase 2. I'm not concerned. I was like, how are we gonna fill this person's time? But now I feel like.
See, and I'm more concerned with finding that person.
Well, no, finding a person is gonna be tough, but I'm like, what would we even be creating?
Right.
But now I'm like, okay, no, I think, yeah, but Brian.
ahead.
What I would recommend is that we try and convince Owen on these first 6 units,
Mm-hmm,
which would give us the winter to find somebody. To then manage it if he doesn't wanna do it long term. I think I mean. If we have to find somebody, we will make the attempt, it's just finding people is not
not a quick act.
easy. Yeah, I mean, we have like
Not fast.
6 open positions at the village right now.
Okay.
We're struggling, so that's my only concern. I wouldn't mind running it in-house. I
Mhm.
think, cause we're gonna get the complaints. So I like to have control over things I'm getting complaints about.
Mm-hmm,
But I'm afraid of the timing. I mean, if one of you volunteered for that job today, I'd say, you're hired, let's go do it.
Lori, you gonna move?
I'm just concerned about the length of time it would
We're
take.
trying to flex it. Down.
So maybe it's a hybrid, if we could get a management company
mm-hmm.
to step up for the first 6 units and.
But sounds like then we need to have the RFP going to council for this and be
Mhm.
ready to. Flip the script if that RFP then becomes the job description, right?
Mhm.
Here's the services we were trying to get someone to bid on, now this is on application for
The
employment.
difference is that I think you're right, if we hire a management company like Owen has.
Mhm.
They can do the maintenance, they have the staff or the contractors to do the maintenance in the whole 9 yards.
Mhm.
If we take it in-house, the person that would be the property manager. I would, other than maybe very minor change a light bulb type maintenance,
Mhm.
I don't see them doing that, they're gonna be administrative.
Right.
Managing collections,
Mhm.
being the interface with the residents. And, I would see our maintenance department doing all the maintenance that we would be responsible for.
Okay, I like the idea of a hybrid,
Yeah.
so,
Are there any positions you're advertising that you were saying you would provide housing?
You don't have to provide at this point. It sounds like there's some interest in maybe doing that for this first position and. We may end up hiring someone and saying, hey, part of the deal is you're gonna live in one of these very first units.
I'm saying like there village jobs that you're trying to fill that you can't fill because they can't get housing.
I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons why they don't get filled, but we don't even have it to offer today. If we wanted to put it in an offer letter, it
Right.
doesn't exist.
okay. So what do we? I said vote on recommendations to council. Again, I don't think we're at that point. We need to draft up a document. And then vote on that. And maybe we do it and the governance document all at the same time, so what do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
Is that all right with you, Maya? Okay, good, okay, all right. All right, I lost my agenda, let me see.
You're down to lottery findings.
Oh, yeah, okay, so. One of the things that we talked about last time too was. When we talk about when we actually have the full. A number of units, couple things we talked about. You can go ahead and summarize again, because I don't think these guys heard
Yeah.
what the your findings when you looked at the lottery process, how that came out.
Yeah, I communicate with a number of places in Colorado that have workforce housing, municipalities, counties. And a couple school districts actually. And they tend to reserve a lottery for housing that's being put up for sale, either rent to own or, qualified straight outright purchase that's usually deed restricted. To a certain percentage of the local income. And really, the feedback I got is with apartments or rental housing, like straight up rental housing. They just take it on a first come, first served basis. They make announcements ahead of time, say 30 days out before they open the list. They say this is coming, and then this is the day you can start signing up at this time. And then as soon as emails start coming in, they're logged, obviously they're time stamped, and they just start going through that first come, first serve.
Do they then have a method to rank the applicants? In other words, if you get 100 applications
Right.
and you take the first 6 in our case, and let's say some of those applicants are qualified but have interesting pasts or, recent, poor credit or something, does it give them the ability to shuffle around, or is it literally first in, first out?
That depends on, some places have them like, Town of Vale has a property manager for their village owned. Apartment complexes and condos, right? Or not condos, but like townhomes that are rentals only. Avon does it themselves. They have they kind of do property management in their department, but both of them said, we take it in and people are ranked according to, like, for example, we've got our ranking of, we've got our 3 tiers of, people that we're looking to house, right? So a village employee that's got, good credit is gonna come before anybody else.
I do want to say something about that.
Yeah, and then, they kind of go from there, so, all the other things being equal, not having issues on your criminal background check. So they do our rank like that, and then, some of them have tiers like we've discussed and some of them don't, but.
So, one of the things that we did talk about at the last meeting is if we go with just the first come, first served timestamp type thing, then maybe what we do for these first 6 units is definitely just open it up to village employees first.
Yeah.
And then if they don't get filled by village employees, then we open it up to the community. And we also talked about if we even do timestamp process, would we then still stick with, let's say, the first 4 are just somebody that works around town at some businesses, but then the 5th one is a village employee, would that automatically bump them up? And I think our general consensus at the last meeting was that would probably be what we would do.
Yeah.
But I was talking to BJ about it. Saturday night, I think, or Thursday, I don't know, can't remember. But, and he was like, well, he said, you know, I really want to make sure that we are thinking about, the whole point of the workforce housing is not just for the village. It's really for the community and not for the village employees. It's really, intended to improve the community as a whole and to, you know, to be able to provide employees for the community as a whole. So maybe we keep the spirit of, we open the first units, obviously to village employees, but after that, then it is basically, you know, we go first come, first serve, and that way it's, you know, that way everybody in the community has an opportunity to be, you know, part of it.
So that it's workforce, Moreno Valley, Angel Fire, workforce housing and not just village housing.
Well, it's Angel Fire Workforce.
Yeah,
Housing,
yeah.
yeah. Brett?
Madam Chairman, the one thing I would like to remind you is whatever we do, it has to be documented, there has to be a policy, approved by council. And we have to follow whatever rules we set up, we can't, you know, wing it, so to
Right.
speak. It's, even though it may make sense and maybe it's more efficient, this is government and we have rules we have to follow, so. Y'all have, you can define something like that, the first 5, you know, whatever, but just remember that. Whatever you define, we're gonna have to do.
And that, to me, that lottery process needs to go in the governance. That's not an application or lease agreement, so we need to land on what we really feel like. So when we set the governance, we did say we had that order of priority. Number 1 was village employees, number 2 was employees that work for the village, and the third one, I don't remember now. Oh, or like business owners or something, yeah.
There was at one time in the governance document too, though, if an employer was gonna end up with multiple housing unit or multiple
Right.
people in there, so. It's all how we're doing it now, right? Like the applicant is going to be the actual tenant. Not necessarily who they work for, and who they work for could change over the years.
Right.
But that was one of the concerns. I don't know if that section's still in there about it requiring committee approval. Or if that has been removed,
It's still in there. It was more like, let's say Joshua wants to rent a unit. Cause he's gonna have rotating, you know, contractors go through. I mean, that was the intent of that, was
Right.
that maybe the 2 people that living in there aren't necessarily gonna be there they might be there a week and then next week he
Right.
has a different person
Yeah.
but he's renting it,
Got
he's paying it. You know, to be able to rotate, and that it could only, the maximum number I thought we said was 2 units for people, an individual
Yes.
employer to do that.
got it.
Sure
Brett?
works with the grant money though,
Yeah, I don't know.
because I think that under the grant, everybody that's in there has to have a, yeah, a lease agreement, because they have to count all the incomes.
Right. So that would be, we'll pick on Josh again. If he moved,
Yes, sir.
he was moving people in and out,
Mhm.
well, their income matters.
Matters, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So if,
Take the grant.
I mean, it's doable, but it just, it's gonna be a little tricky to.
Alright.
I guess that's the question is, are we even gonna have employers do that setup? Or is his hope for his employee to be early and often in the lottery? Or in the
Yeah.
timestamp for when the application process opens up, right?
Brett?
I do want to convey some sentiment that the mayor expressed to me.
Okay.
And that is that, although, so. My goal is to help solve my problems of finding employees, right? So I was being a little selfish. And the governor, someday the governor, no, the mayor reminded me that this is the public's money. It's
Right.
not really our money. And, so I think if we made something that set up a lottery system that didn't give advantage to village employees, based on my conversation, I think the mayor would be in favor of that.
Right, that's what he basically expressed me to, because it's more, it's really in the spirit of providing housing for people who are unable to find housing that work for companies in the village. Not necessarily just the village, so that does change a little bit, that wording in our governance document. If we go with the first come, first serve. And a ranking, we need to add some sort of ranking, because if the first person on the list. Absolutely is not eligible, like we said, if they don't even have the income to pay the rent. Or they, they had,
6 repossessions in the last
Yeah.
6 years, I'm
Yeah.
not ranking that person.
well, right, or if they have, I don't know what I'd have to read what you can use. I mean, we have to be careful with, discrimination, but like if they were. Sexual molester or something like that, would that prevent them? I think, I think there's some rules about. You can rent to them, but they have to be away from certain things or whatever, so whatever the policies are there, but we would have to do some ranking there too. Ooh, I'm touching stuff in it, it was dirty and I was wiping it off, and now I did something, I don't know what I did.
I think something more common you're gonna see is, like, say his nephew and another worker wanted to rent, and his nephew's really young, so his credit score, he might have a 0 credit score.
Right,
But the other guy has a good credit score, so together they're renting it. What do you do?
yeah, I don't know,
Yeah, well, there's legitimate disqualifying criteria
yeah,
is the upshot of that. So, we can look at that. But I think the first come, first serve is the fairest overall way. Just, okay,
Oh, yeah.
we get out and publicize it.
Yep.
Ahead of time, say, hey, this is coming, so be ready. You need to send your application on, August 30th at 10 a.m. And we'll be accepting applications, and then you go through those in the order that they're sent. But then, yeah, there will be disqualifying criteria
yeah, they're
that are
considered.
applied afterwards, and that's legitimate.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the question that has got to be asked. If all 30 of them are resort employees in a year and a half. I suspect the public is gonna have something to say about that.
Mhm.
So this could go all village employees. But if it ends up all one employee, of which there's only one in town, and I'm not mad, like, we would love to have those employees in there, but I think you need to consider both failure modes, failures of it's 100% village employees, or it's 100% one employer in town. Both of those are not gonna be favorable outcomes, right? So in a first come, first served scenario, is there a bailout to? You see what I don't think either of us want that
I think you
political problem.
Implementation of the time and date stamps and.
And I think it's unlikely, but not impossible.
I
So,
agree.
yeah,
I think
plan for the worst.
I think it's not likely, but
But it's something to, let's think about that.
Okay. Yeah, and I still think though, probably the first 5, since the first 5 are gonna be fully village owned with. But it is grant money, maybe we open those up to village employees first.
I guess that's the tricky part here is. The upshot to a lottery is it's completely impersonal, right? It's a random number
Right.
generator, whoever gets it, gets it. The downside is you lose all ability to. Have intelligent decisions about who's going in there, right? You can certainly have disqualifying criteria. And
Right.
I think we're all okay. Again, I'm using the 6 repossession thing as ridiculous, but
Mhm.
my parents ran rentals for a lot of years. If they had an applicant that had a repossession every 12 months, they're not gonna wanna rent to that person, right? And I think the village should probably feel the same way.
Mhm.
If you have somebody who's got a history of not holding up their end of a contract, why would you enter into contract with them? So it's a very difficult thing to do, to write a set of, well, we're gonna do this many for the village and this, you know,
Right.
once you get past that, it's a little tricky. I think. The answer to my problem is not, hey, some weird quirk. It's, we need to be ready to stay the course to get to phase two. The hope is that we, over the course of phase 1 and 2, we have enough housing that what I mentioned about, oh, they're all resort employees and somebody's mad about that. Well, hopefully we have more housing than there are resort employees that need it and it can go to other places. But until we have excess housing, we're gonna be left kind of picking and choosing in a very weird way.
What I don't like about the lottery process, just the random, is that, let's say I have a person who applied for rental, you know, 3 months ago, and they've been waiting for something to open up.
Yeah,
And then all of a, you know, and maybe there's 12 of those people that applied, and then all of a sudden you've got number 13 comes in. And at the last minute applies, and then they get selected after these other people have been on the waiting list.
For
I
sure.
don't like that. I
For
think
sure.
waiting list is. I think the,
Wait
Yeah.
list is part of the first come, first served.
right, that's why, yeah, cause that would, if I was a person who had applied. And is just waiting for a unit to open, and all of a sudden I see somebody come into town, I'm gonna think of every excuse why that person got preferential
Right.
treatment. And
Right.
even though they didn't, they got random number generated.
Right.
Then I'm gonna be really upset, you know, and then I'm gonna be like, well, I don't even wanna work in Angel Fire anymore, you know, do something like that, so. Anyway,
Did I mention in my write-up, was it Town of Breckenridge or Town of Vale had a couple of new apartment complexes, but I'm talking like
Mhm.
150
Sure.
unit complexes open up, and so they did do lottery for that,
okay.
you know, to populate this new
Mhm.
property, and they had enough interest,
Mhm.
but they knew they'd done a little bit of study beforehand, and they knew they'd have more than enough
Okay.
to, so that's why they had people send their information
So-
in a lottery format. So it is possible. I mean, definitely it's easy with you do random number generators, like you said, and it's not a tough process. They just,
Mhm.
you know, the feedback that I got was just, this is what we've fallen on after years of experience, because,
so maybe an initial, just because
yeah,
if. The timestamp obviously takes it out of there.
right.
But if you do have the introduction of randomness, like, I hope that Josh, one of his guys, gets one of these housing units. But I don't want blowback on him if it does, right? I don't want anyone thinking he had a hand in, you know, so some type of random, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Well, maybe that's the way to do it, is like what you were saying. You announce it and say, hey, there's a unit opening up, there's
Mhm.
1 or 2 units opening up. We're taking applications, and then we don't retain a waiting list. And we just say, we're taking these applications. Step 1 is we go through and, you know, do qualification to, you know, evaluate if you have legitimate qualifications or
Right.
whatever that you're about, and then step 2 is of the qualified applicants. Then it's randomized generated, or maybe you just do random generator, look at that applicant, nope, they're disqualified, we random generate and get the next one and something like that. I mean. That might make it easier for having to maintain things, you know, but, I don't know.
I would say I like the first come, first served, just because it puts the onus on the resident or potential resident. You know, we're telling you about it, and like I said, you know, we gotta get out there and talk about it ahead of time.
Mhm.
But then it's like, okay, great, this is coming up, I want housing here, I'm motivated, I'm gonna set a timer,
Mhm.
you know, so I've got my email ready to go. And, you know, and it needs to come from that, so they need to get, anyway, you know, don't want it coming from employers, I feel, we want it coming from the individual, I don't know.
I agree. I think your system totally works. I just, the sorting categories.
Mhm.
Okay, we've talked about the credit rating. Do you put I mean, when we're evaluating any other spend, right, there's a rank order of the things you qualify. Well, if there's automatic kick out for poor credit rating, well, is there anything in there in the application process that says, how long have you been here? Do we bias this, in other words, to the people that have been here longer or have been waiting longer? To Elizabeth's point, if you've applied through 6 phases and you just never got lucky on any of
Get
them,
down the road.
does that start to, you
Yeah,
know?
cause I mean, I've got a kid in Angel Nest, right, who's only been there for a couple months.
Right,
So, and then he's gonna have to continue up with his lease.
right.
So then, I don't know, I just don't even.
In other words, the more draws you go through, should that, you know, you see what I'm saying, like,
Right, I see it kind of going though is, or, you know, if we get into a waiting list situation, a waiting list is gonna, I would say, I would think. We not, maybe it's again, something else we need to write in
I think we need
to government.
to take applications. First come, first served. Once we fill this thing, we say, I'm sorry, it's full. Next time we'll start a new list.
Instead of holding on to waiting, holding.
It's too complicated. Who keeps the list? Who? And
Have your
and you
property,
start-
this
you start
property
doing
manager
this, have-
holds on to that. Whoever is doing it, whether it's a third party or. That's part of
I-
what they do.
I think there's something to like, particularly the way we're doing it now. If we have 6 of these units, I suspect we're gonna have 30+ applicants to that. Well, we've already done the work for when the other 24 arrive.
Right,
You
that's.
know what it is? It's
my
like,
point.
hey, I very much doubt that the application pool will have changed that much from, let's say, November 1 to May 1, right? Through one winter, most of those applicants are still gonna be valid.
Well, how about this? I think this is great discussion. Um,
I was really hoping that Meg was gonna find one that we could just copy and paste and move on down the road.
and so Matt, I think could you,
I think because each entity has different specific criteria, so that's
Right.
why we have to
Mhm,
define our specific criteria.
mhm.
But I think, you know,
Well, I think whatever, Maya, did you have any input? We haven't. On the lottery process?
I think initially it might be difficult, but at the resort, we do first come, first serve, and it works just fine. And a lot of times we have empty housing. So I think in the long run, first come, first serve will work just fine.
All right, well. Here's what I would like. I mean, we're not gonna vote on anything today, so, but we are gonna assign action items, so what I would like is, Meg, if you could draft up. Maybe an option A, option B. Of a. Whatever you wanna call it. Lottery process or. You know, however,
application list process.
application process, yeah.
Let's just, yeah, give it a more neutral name.
So that we can at the next meeting have that to the point where we could vote on it and because it's gonna be, it's gonna be in the governance document,
Yes.
so we need to put that in the governance. And we need to consider if the way we have our we said that our governance says that we have this order of priority for applicants, and so we need to consider if that needs to be changed or not.
Well, it's a selection criteria, right? And I agree, if we're gonna change the criteria, we need to have something to replace it.
Right.
For instance, should we be biasing applicants who are willing to sign a 1-year lease
Mhm.
above those who are not?
I
I would
think
think
we-
we should,
I think we said in our governance that we have a preference for leases for 6 months or longer.
right?
We did say that.
People with year-round employment
Mhm.
where the village is not worried about, oh crap. We're in November now and this person's moving, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Things like that would matter to the employers, but it also matters to the village who's ultimately holding the, the debt essentially on doing this.
I mean, that's every month, we got, the village has to pay sustainability partners, whether there's someone in that unit or not.
Right.
Right.
That payment has to be made.
So the system that ensures the highest occupancy of the best qualified tenants that are most likely to pay rent is ultimately what's gonna be best for the village.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, we don't wanna be bringing in a bunch of people that,
That are here for a week and then.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. We would prefer long-term stable residents that, can use this housing as a springboard to grow into the next thing.
I'll reach out to some of the contacts I've made too and see if I can get some specific examples of language.
Okay.
That's already like past muster with, but it's obviously you're in Colorado, but.
Sure, the problem is the same, the
Yeah.
solutions are.
But that's all good, because I think we do need to understand what are legitimate qualifications, what is the ranking of the qualifications, what is, you know. If we have one unit and 6 applicants, okay, we'll start at the top, the first person, well, if they meet all the qualifications, then okay, let's see if they wanna rent it, if they don't, we move on to the next one or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but if they don't meet all the qualifications, or they meet, you know, maybe they're, or we take all 6, I mean, we need to decide, if we got 6 applicants, do we? Look at all 6 applicants and then say, okay, which one do we wanna approach first? I don't know, we need to think about that, but you're right, we do need to. Find the best.
And I'm totally fine with the first come, first serve. I just wanna make sure that the discretionary criteria
Yeah,
set us up for the best chance of long-term
and
success.
I'll ask it that. I'll ask a little bit more about the
Yeah.
specific criteria, because we can talk in very general terms about it, but I'll see if I can get
Okay.
specific criteria several other municipalities use.
And I mean, fair housing
Right,
is gonna have some things, I mean, you can get a copy of Fair Housing Act, right? You have
yeah.
that. So we just make
Yeah,
sure
and I've
that
got-
any
I've
of our
got you, Laura.
qualifications are.
so we just have to go between fair housing and Aurora to
Well,
be
the,
within.
the aura is really more about the obligations between the renters and the owners, like
Right,
the renter has to pay, the owner has to keep. You know, the lights on or heat on or
Right.
whatever, you know.
this is what you do with security deposit.
Right.
This is the renter needs to do this if there's an issue.
Right, okay. And then we need to, and then so on the eligibility documentation, I still think we wanna do quarterly for the governance, is everybody, I mean, I'll put that in there, that's for the governance.
No, I think they,
We have a few more minutes to go.
Think about that a little bit because I've been thinking about that, especially talking to them and doing my own work. I'm kind of like, quarterly is it's gonna be a burden on whoever's doing it.
Okay.
Could we do twice a
Twice a
year?
year?
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Well, let's do
Full-time job.
twice a year unless you have a shorter lease.
Right.
Oh, yeah, right, obviously, yeah,
Yeah, okay, we can do that.
yeah.
All right, unless shorter, okay. And then, we only have a few minutes left, so,
is there, in this limited first phase, what would be the rationale to give someone a 6-month lease shot at this if you have 5 people willing to do a 12-month lease? Why should that person ever win out? I guess is what I'm trying to figure out.
hmm,
Because it's a springboard, because it it buys them time to be in the valley to then to buy a place or get what they really want, and then somebody else can benefit from this housing in a faster rate. Like, we love it when our employees move out of housing quickly because it gives them what they need to become established, and then it gives the next person a chance.
yeah, okay, that's good rationale, okay. All right, so,
What if we did, since we have 6 units, what if we did half? Or even like only 2 out of the 4 could be 6 months to a year, when the other 4 have to be a year.
I think but I wouldn't wanna put that on there, because what if we only get people who apply for 6 months? I would worry about that.
I think it's instead of trying to limit them, you figure out what your weighted factor is
factors,
here for this, because just because I think Maya's point was great, just because I might prefer the 12-month from just a payment perspective, there's a lot of reasons for the 6 months, but. You know, is one of these an A and the other one's a B? Is that how we're going through this judging criteria to come up with who gets the highest total average score is gonna be the one that gets the offer of the place, I think.
Okay, we have to wrap it up, so action items, Meg's got an action item, I've got the action item to update the governance document with. The eligibility documentation things and the. UORA, however you pronounce that, what other action items do we need to do? I think, I've sent Rocky a bunch of stuff. To compare on the lease agreement, yes?
Madam Chairman, I would like to say one thing that, even though this committee has done yeoman's work, if y'all were the most if we were looking to rank our committees, y'all would be definitely ranked as the most successful, and I appreciate that. But what I hope to get is a set of rules
Mhm.
that our HR department can follow, because. You know, even though y'all are a great committee now, committees come and go, and you don't know who's gonna be on it, and I don't want. The ability to place people in these units dependent on committee, I really prefer that to be. Rules that are followed by our HR department.
By a village employee or whatever, okay. Yeah, cause I think, and one thing we did have in our governance is we said that any exceptions had to be reviewed by the committee.
Yeah.
And maybe that is something that maybe just the council votes on, because a new committee that, let's say, you know, starting in 2026 or 27, all of a sudden we have all brand new committee meetings, they're like, well, why should we have to vote on this? You know, so I don't know. We can think about that too. All right, any other action items?
Next meeting date,
So you had one for Rocky here.
What is,
Well, I think I'm gonna ask Rocky to compare the things that I sent him, there's the application, the lease agreement, and well, yes, and the pet policy, which would go in the lease agreement, and there was like a medical marijuana addendum or something like that, that he needs to review. And because he had drafted up a lease agreement and I didn't get it fully read, but you know, and maybe he used what, I think you had sent him the Inmar lease agreement
Mhm.
several months ago anyway, so
Right.
maybe he started with that, I don't know, but I just wanted him to compare that again, so that's what I'm hoping that Rocky can
Okay,
do.
great.
And then I think the only other thing is, you know, we wanted to have an RFP for to go out, especially maybe like on these first 6 units, so we kind of somebody needs to draft that up.
I don't think we're
RFP
ready. I don't think we're quite ready.
For the rental management,
Yeah.
for the first 6 units,
and that would then either get fulfilled or turn into a job description on a
right,
hiring
Right.
application.
Madam Chairman, if y'all could write the scope of work, like
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
said, job description, then we'll have our chief procurement officer write up the RFP.
okay. Does anybody wanna take that on? Josh, Lori, or Maya,
So the scope of work for property management,
for the rental management, yeah,
I'd take it on if I didn't have my
I'll try.
action. I didn't have my action already.
Try.
okay, give it a try, I mean, you and I can.
Yeah, and if you guys wanna holler at me, if you guys wanna do it, come back to me, I'll. Let's on it.
And so we have often talked about, can we do like just some drafts and then, you know, get feedback from council members via email, and then, so we come to the meeting with something that we can then discuss further, is that possible? We've talked about that many times.
You can't do a quorum that way, so you could do 2 councilors, but you couldn't do 3. And the mayor's included in that.
Do you
You can't
mean,
have a quorum.
but do you mean having, say, you and Lori get together to iron this out, separate apart from the meeting? Yes, you can do that.
Yeah.
Well, you would just have to have a public meeting to do that.
Have a public meeting for just the 2 of us to talk about the
No.
draft?
But
If you wanna talk about quorum.
Not, what do you mean a quorum? We're just trying to put together a document with some,
To present.
to present
come back.
to the council meeting to vote on.
So I'm just saying that if you talk to more than 3 members, it
Okay,
becomes a rolling quorum.
I see,
Even though you don't talk to them at the same time.
okay,
So you could have a work session with the entire council. And the public would be involved and y'all could hash things out there. No decisions would be made in that work session. Or at least no voted on decisions.
okay,
Or you can pick 2, you already got one here who's already involved, pick another one. That's what you'd have to do if you really wanted it, like I would recommend. Sit down with the mayor, he's the most influential member of the council, so. You wanna sit down with the mayor and try and work something out,
for the
but if
RFP,
you, to go to 3 and you're doing the work of the business and decisions are being made, it's a. It's against the Open Meetings Act.
Okay,
But really, to collate information, then come back and present to the whole committee,
I mean, you
that's a,
you can't collect from them individually.
all right, so Lori's gonna take that on and
You guys are, you're mixing.
we're
terms
mixing
here.
terms, yeah.
Okay.
If you and Lori want to sit down and work on the RFP draft,
Right,
so that there's something to come back at the next committee meetings,
to talk,
that's
that's what
totally
I'm talking
fine.
about.
yeah, right,
Because
right.
you're
I
not,
misunderstood.
you're
I
not
thought
involved.
you were wanting to go to talk to each of the councilmen.
No, nothing,
Okay.
no councilman
Okay,
at all,
that was my
just,
mistake, I'm sorry.
just
guys.
maybe like, maybe Lori puts a draft together and she says, hey, guys, any feedback, anything else you wanna add? Then maybe Maya responds with something and I respond with something and she adds it, then we come to an actual committee meeting and we discuss it there.
Correct, you would, whatever work you wanna do in the background is fine, but that work product would have to come to a committee
Right,
meeting.
absolutely.
To then be
Okay.
voted to go to council.
That's what I was asking,
That's,
that's,
yeah.
okay,
we're on
that's totally
the same
fine. Okay, so Lori's gonna take that action item.
What was it again?
It was to put together an RFP draft for the rental management.
So the.
Yeah, no, look, she's gonna look at the scope of work
So the.
Right.
that will be
Scope of work,
involved,
scope of
right, to
work,
come back and do an
Scope of work
RFP,
with
yeah.
the property manager.
Yeah,
Correct.
yes.
Correct.
But not the maintenance of the internal, right?
Next week, Rocky was back,
Hmm?
is Rocky back next week?
Okay, so next meeting will be when? I'm gone 14th through the 24th. 15th through the 24th. So we either have a meeting next week or we have Josh lead a meeting, which I'm perfectly happy for him to do, or we wait till the 25th.
You said you need Rocky though,
Yeah.
Do we kind of
Should
need
be
to wait
back.
till the 25th?
so he,
Huh?
So we kind of need to wait till the 25th for Rocky to be back
yeah,
and everything.
Your probably best bet is the week of the 25th, so you
Yeah.
wanna.
Okay. All right, then let's look at days available on the week of the 25th.
The 25th itself is good, 27, 28, or 29.
I would love the 25th if we could do that at 5:30.
yeah, that day's good for me.
Maya? 25th at 5:30, okay. And then in that meeting, we're going to have drafts that we are going to vote on. Discuss and vote on, so we can, and that's gonna be the governance updates, the recommendations to council. Which would include the property manager stuff. And the lottery stuff. Okay. So that they can take it, when is the next council meeting?
The day after.
Well, that we won't be able, well, I don't know that we would,
We would be able to
We
get out.
wouldn't have it in time.
we won't have it
It
in
would be
time,
second Tuesday,
September the 9th,
Madam Chairman,
yes?
we can include it on the agenda.
Mhm.
It has to be on the agenda 72 hours in advance, but the actual documentation. Legally, you can present the night of the meeting. We just don't like to do that. We want our councilmen to have time to review it. So we usually require the documentation to be there at the same time as we issue the agenda. But legally, the item just has to be on the agenda. And so we can go ahead and put it on the agenda the day ahead of time, and then the next day, if you can provide the documentation,
But
I think that would work.
you're not aiming at the 26th meeting. Whatever you vote on the 25th is gonna end up going to legal. Before it goes to council,
That's a good
Sure.
point.
so
Yes,
there-
it's true,
you might as well plan on one of the September meetings.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
To have council vote on it.
including the scope of work, because then once we get the scope of work, we'd have to send it over to the RFP and then that. So maybe we shoot for all of those things to be the September 9th meeting. Okay,
If we do on the 25th, then yeah, they can.
then we
legal
can
and-
get, yeah, we can at least get it to legal and hopefully they can respond back.
Right.
Why don't
Okay.
we plan to, till 7 PM, make sure we get this done,
It's fine with me,
cause it's like time factor.
yeah. I mean, the only reason we're running late, well, we are 7 minutes more today, but we started late, we started
Yeah,
at
we
like
started at
6:36 or something, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we started 6:37 or 8 or something like that, and it's 6:45.
Okay, so I have 3 items on the next agenda: governance draft vote, Recommendation to council on RFP, recommendation to council on lottery.
Well, the lottery will be in the governance,
Okay,
so it's
Scope of
recommendation
work.
on the
recommendation, scope of
property
work.
management.
Yeah, property management scope of work, okay.
Or is it the rules? Rules of. We were gonna make a list of rules of.
Well, we could send the lottery draft to council, see what they think about
I
it,
think it
and
would be
before
good.
we add it to the governance document, which we do that.
I think it would be good to get feedback and air it more publicly. Jay?
It's fine. The other way to do that would be to have it presented at a work session.
Oh,
If there will be a council work session,
Yeah.
then it could be discussed with all council members and any members of the public. Do we have any plans for a September work session? I know it's out
I don't
there.
have any right now.
Not yet, but we can.
So it would be the other way to do it as opposed to the back and forth of, hey, we spit and polish this thing and now we're handing it to you. It's here's kind of the bones of our idea. What do you think?
Maybe we can request that at the
We just need
26th meeting.
72 hours advance.
Yeah, I'll put
So-
on here, I'll keep on your recommendation to council, but I think let's keep it in mind more.
Okay.
We should probably send that to a work session.
Well, that's a good idea, because maybe we can ask, maybe we can, before the 26th, we can decide if we want to ask them for a work session just to cover those.
Sure. As you're pulling those documents together, you go, there's some big questions here.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Can you send us the disqualifications? You said there's a list of disqualifications.
No, I said we need to make
We need to make a
a
list.
list. That's what I
Okay,
mean.
And I
I
was
you
just-
said there was like a standard.
No, and I was saying that we need to make sure whatever disqualifications that we decide on are in alignment with fair housing,
That's, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I see.
so. Okay, if that's it, then meeting adjourned.
F 47 PM. You know, Elizabeth